a casserole and some fried chicken and something, and then a week later they're not making casserole every night.
But you can't blame them for that.
I mean, breathe.
And I know that.
Yeah.
I know it sounds horrible, right?
No,
but that was exactly what I needed. You need to leave, and broke my heart. But they were absolutely right.
You're envious because you'd rather be in their situation that they had a child that they can be angry with. Don't do that. You can't say that. And you can't do that anymore.
So definitely, you don't know how you're going to respond until it happens, unfortunately.
Hello and welcome to the Men Do Talk podcast. I'm Serge.
And I'm Lee.
And we are delighted to invite and welcome our special guest today, Lenny Hunt.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on the show, guys.
Who's Lenny Hunt? Who's Lenny? To give a bit of background, Lenny is, from my perspective and Lee's, a phenomenon. In the grief world, I think it's the best ways to call it. We found him through social media. He has amassed a following of near enough 280,000 people in America.
Around
the world, I would say, rather than America. And we've invited him on today to talk about his grief journey. He's the honorary first guest we've had on this podcast.
So
we're really excited.
Thank you. That's an honor. That's a true honor.
There's no prize or anything. It's just a fact.
Okay.
One day we'll look back at this and we'll say
he was the first.
The first of
there you go.
Millions, and you'd have amassed 280 million followers by then, and I'll be slightly grayer if that's even possible. So welcome, basically.
Thank you.
I think what we're going to start with is just a bit of background on your story and why. Well, let's start with your story, and then we can take it from there, if that's okay.
Okay. Well, just like you guys, I did lose my boys as well, my children, in January of 2011. We were out. Well, do you know what geocaching is? Are you familiar with the term geocaching?
Do you want to explain it to people who don't know?
Do you know?
I do, because you've told me in the past, but for the sake
of course. So we were out geocaching, which is this great activity where you get geo coordinates, and you go to that specific location, and hidden in that location is, it could be anything. It could be a small box the size of a cup, or even a film canister, or there you go, just like something small, something just like that. And you have to like search for it in that one coordinate. Sometimes there's clues or things you have to do to find it. And my boys, being the age that they were, this was so fun to them. Dawson was 12, Devin was 9, and we had been out that day. We found a bunch of them, and we were on our way home, and we were driving down an old country road. And as we were going, Dawson, who was sitting over my shoulder, had said, "Dad, thank you for making me come today." Because he didn't want to come with us that day, and Devin and I had talked him into coming. And I turned my head over my shoulder, right? Just like every parent does, over my shoulder. And I was looking at Dawson, and I smiled at him, just like you do with your kids. And you don't say anything. There are no words are being said. It's all through the eyes. And he smiled and I smiled, and everything was good. Everything was perfect right then. And then as I turned my head back around is when I saw a stop sign. We flew through the stop sign, and we got hit on the side by another car coming the other way that did not have a stop sign. And they virtually drove through our car. It was just straight through. And my boys died there. Devin was actually thrown from the car, and I watched him take his last breath. Yeah.
Were you injured in that moment?
Man, that's my struggle all the time. That's my struggle, because my boys died, and all I walked away with was a scar on my forehead. That's all I got. I didn't pass out when we got hit, so I saw everything. Even tried talking to my boys. They weren't responding. It was so... I had my arm in a sling for about a week, and I have a nasty scar on my head. And you've seen in all my TikToks, I'm wearing a hat because I try to hide my scar. That's what I do. Every time I look in the mirror, I see the scar.
That initial moment, I can't, I can't imagine. I mean, we've all felt and had a different type of grief, but this is, I mean, the word that comes to mind is shocking. This is pure shock in those initial moments. How did you? I want to ask the question. How?
No, go ahead.
How did you?
This is one of those things, isn't it?
Cope.
When you have these situations and then you get people asking totally
Sure.
genuinely,
Sure.
How do you cope? How did you? There's
Right.
no question that.
Well, no, and I understand that completely, and I see that on social media all the time, where people will shoot me questions and just ask, and then other people will jump in on those comments and go, how the hell can you say that to him?
Yeah.
Right. But I totally get it. It's a genuine question
Yeah.
that they don't really know how to ask. And I don't take it personal by any means. They're not in the same space that I'm in, that you guys are in. They don't know it. So they don't really know what's okay and what's not okay to ask. Then you have the flip side of people that also don't know what's okay and what's not okay to ask, judging everyone else who finally got the balls to ask. So it's yeah. I don't know how to. It's a weird thing.
I suppose,
but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I suppose,
get what you're saying.
In a small way, a couple of weeks ago, someone was asking me questions, and he was and kept saying, am I okay? Am I okay asking? Am I okay to? And in a way, you're pleased that they're questioning the fact, are they okay asking? But then equally, anyone would think, and I know to ask you, you're probably in a way the same as us, in that it's there every day, every minute of the day. So by asking you, I know it's not bringing it out to the front because it's there. It's just underneath the surface. So when people ask me and they get, I don't know, and other people say, oh no, mate, you shouldn't know. And I'm sure we'll probably find that we might be getting that maybe as it goes on, is people ask us a question and some people say, don't, it's like being offended on our behalf, which is sweet, but they don't need to be, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's an uncomfortable thing.
Of course it is. Yeah.
And how, I mean, around the family, how did everyone react? Besides obviously pure shock and, the trauma of it. Do people act in different ways? Yeah,
absolutely. Obviously, everybody's extremely supportive, coming around and everything. But I also, Cal, I mean, and I've talked about this before,
Excuse me.
that's a huge struggle as well. The whole thing is a struggle.
Mhm.
The whole thing is a
Yeah.
struggle. But, you know, you have friends and family, and they're there 100%, you know, after it happens.
Mm.
And, you know, it's the day, you know, day 1, day 2, day 3, they're always there. You know, maybe they're bringing you a casserole. I mean, whatever, you know, you're getting the phone call. People are always around checking on you, you know. It's that week later, right? When everybody goes back on,
Yeah.
you know, with their
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah, totally.
And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that, but even family, you know, they've got their stuff they got to do. They can't sit here next to Lenny and hold his hand all day.
Mhm.
You
But
know,
also
of course they
Lenny
want to,
doesn't-
but it's not how it is.
No, but I suppose in a way, Lenny might not want people to constantly hold his hand, and I suppose depending on the sort of person that you are, but yeah, it's crazy. I know people they're it's nice that they're there, but then like you say,
Mhm.
they make you a casserole and some fried chicken and something, and then a week later they're not making casserole every night because they're thinking, oh
Right.
shit,
Yeah.
we got to cook ourselves for our family, and they'll call and then they don't call and that's just
But you can't blame them for
No.
that. I mean, they've got their life too. You know, it's time for them to move and do their things. And as much as I may want to shake my fist at them, that's not fair. That's not fair at all. So,
I mean,
yeah.
I can't even begin to understand. Well, I can begin to understand, but I can't necessarily appreciate because my situation was different. There are similarities in that. Well, similarities. It was very sudden for us. So suddenly, like you, when you said the last breath, that is an image in my mind on the hospital table when we were away, you know, and they're giving her shock and they're doing this and doing that, and then they're listening and they're like that, and you see her eyes close, and I said I love
Right.
you, and that was it. So in that respect, and that wasn't something obviously I was expecting to do that day. It's not as sudden and as dramatic as obviously being sideswiped, you know, by a car. And I suppose I say thank God for small mercies, and they are the tiniest of, but in a way, and I say this to myself, which is why I'm saying it, is that I suppose at least, all these words sound so pathetic, but at least you were there to hold him, you know? And I was there with my daughter. She could have been in nursery. She could have been in Holland with my wife. I could have been here, you know, I was there with her. Not that it doesn't make a difference, but
Yeah.
What
I get it.
What do you feel looking back? What stage of grief hit you first, do you feel?
Well, I should step back for just a second. Because I know that my mother is going to be listening to this. She's going to be watching this podcast. So I do need to say that my mother and my father and my family were extremely supportive from day one. I couldn't have asked for anything more.
we could edit
And
that.
I know that. Okay, there you go. I know that sounds like an after-school special and all of that, but absolutely,
This
I
isn't
couldn't
an
have
award
asked
ceremony,
No, but
Lenny.
you're-
anything more.
I'd like to thank my mother, my father.
Yeah, but you know what? It's actually sometimes it's important because family don't always realize what they do might be of great help, even if they think it's not a lot. And it's not always just then; it's in the future. That's all. My microphone's dropping. Sorry, go on. Yeah, it's just in the future.
But that's the whole thing, isn't it? I suppose in a way, you know, there's probably little minuscule things that people did that at the time were small, but they stuck with you. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Yeah. So
No,
there's
no, I
like
get it. I
someone
get
may
it.
have said something, to you that was really emotive, and you may have looked back at that, and in your posts online, you may have sort of referred to those little words of support, but they don't necessarily know that is going to have such an effect on you,
Right.
per se. So yeah, but I mean, it's just, I'm just interested to know, because we've spoken about, the stages of grief a lot, and I don't believe there's a limited amount of group stages. I think they're never ending. You could use all sorts of adjectives to describe grief, and someone described it as like a chameleon. It changes forms all the time and changes color, and and that sort of thing. But initially, I'm just sorry to go back to that same question.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
What do you feel you went through first? Was it, I don't want to press you, but
No,
just,
absolutely fair. Well, obviously disbelief, that anything like this could even ever possibly happen. I remember before the boys passed, my biggest fear was that my boys would witness me getting beat up by somebody. But if my boys saw that, then I wouldn't be Superman anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Dad could be defeatable. And that was like my biggest worry. That was the thing that I feared. It never came to my brain that something like this, an automobile accident that would take them away from me like that, just boom, it's done and it's over. It never crossed my mind. That kind of stuff doesn't happen. But the problem is, it does happen. It happens all the time. But we don't know it because people don't talk about it. And that's one thing I've learned through this entire experience, is that I'm not alone.
That was one of the first things I learned after losing a child, is you do realize, and I found it it was a help in a way, because you realize you're not on your own, that there are lots of people that have been through that and will go through.
Well, see, this is why I'm here sometimes, because I have to disagree with that.
That's great.
I've found it to be the most lonely experience I've ever had to experience. Because sorry.
No, it's fine. Go right ahead.
Your journey, you've had similarities in your journey, and we can talk about that in a bit, to my journey, and similarities to Lee as well. But I felt that I couldn't talk to anybody. I locked myself away. I went back to work very quickly.
I went back to work within 2 weeks
and tried to get that normality back. And I could feel the anxiety building all the time. And, I knew that there were other things not right in my life.
Sure.
And I was never angry. I don't think I was ever angry. I was
at what? At the situation or people?
Just at people in general. I didn't sort of think I'm going to take people to court again, and all this sort of things, stuff to deal with. So I never experienced anger as such in the early stages of grief. But
no, I understand that, and that's fair. Absolutely.
I had these levels of, like, I suppose, deflation, just wanting to give up to a certain degree. And I had a lot of blame for myself as well. Did I put Maddie to bed in the right way that night, for example? And I know I did. And the day, the police are at the house, put into the back of a police car. I mean, this is in my house. I've woken up that morning, and an hour later I'm in the back of a police car, sort of not being arrested as such, driven to the hospital, but still, forensics have turned up at the house and that sort of thing. I mean, did you experience all that as well? And did that worry you? Or
okay, so I did have, obviously, we'll go this way. It was an accident, obviously, but it was an accident that was created by my negligence, right? I mean, I'll openly admit that. Had I been paying attention, we wouldn't have missed the stop sign. Had I not been, communicating with my son in the back like everyone does.
You can't.
Really
Had I not
important.
been
That, yeah,
doing that,
everyone does. It's
right.
totally, yeah,
Right.
totally normal. Yeah.
Had I not been doing those things, we wouldn't have missed the stop sign. Everything would be fine. So obviously, I did break the law, I guess, right? Because I went through the stop sign. I was not arrested or put in jail or anything like that. That is something though I was very afraid of. I was very, very afraid of.
And it must be incredibly difficult to have that going on in your mind at the same time as trying to grieve the loss of your two children, right? I mean,
because
exactly.
like, that's not enough.
You go from that an amazing day to just, I mean, literally in that instant. I can't fathom that. And as I said to a friend the other week, I said, I've got this amazing guy coming on the podcast. And I said, I swear I said that I thought my story was something, but how you've got through this and what you have done is just, I am literally for the first time in a while lost for words, because, you know, to have the resilience that you have after everything you've been through, I just think it's phenomenal. I truly mean that.
But I mean, you have to understand too that I made a lot of really bad decisions after I lost my boys. I mean, I lost my marriage, right, because of bad decisions I was making. I mean, lost my family for a very, very long time because of the decisions I was making.
I don't know if you know this phrase, and did you say you went off the rails a bit? Were you drinking or did you?
Oh yeah, no. Drinking,
listen,
smoking,
if you don't want to talk about
rehab, no, it's fine. I'll keep it general. It general. But yeah, man, I mean, it was bad. Did the rehab, did the drinking. I mean, I got into everything. Very loose lifestyle that I started living.
Did I? No,
and it was bad. It was really bad.
I just asked Lee.
He just asked me if I. No, I mean, I was. I smoked weed and hash then, and occasionally still the odd
partake in the odd bifter.
Yeah, because having a beer is socially acceptable, but God forbid, you know. But that's a whole nother.
It's legal out there now, isn't it? I mean, it's fine now, isn't it? But he's got one. Just he's.
Yeah, but it's fine. Let
me put this out.
but the whole this is the whole thing. If I have a beer now, to everyone that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But if I have a joint now, people are going to be, and I've always had issues with that. I've always, but that's not.
I have that from my kids with vaping. I mean, it's like the most innocent thing in the world in my mind compared to what I used to do during, afterwards. I was like smoking joints every night.
But you see, so this
it was hard to get out of it.
So for me, that was probably my only vice. But saying that, I still had my wife. I still had an 18-month-old child. I had an existence that was still there. I definitely. So I didn't go in like diving right in. I must admit, I think your situation, it's that whole. I think we're all allowed the grief ladder, aren't we? And I think with what that was what you have been through. It's just
what I was going to ask was that was there a point when you were off the rails?
Sure.
You look back and go, "This has got to stop." What was that? What was that point for you? What was that point for you?
Man alive.
He asked some good questions, didn't he?
No, absolutely.
I just want to get a feel, because there's going to be people in this journey who are probably in the exact point that you are at now. And if we can offer any form of advice to them, you mentioned that you went into rehab. You mentioned that there must have been a point when you went into rehab, had you grieved, I suppose? So that's the big question, isn't it? And you know, you know, your grieving was to sort of just say fuck it. You asked earlier if you're allowed to swear, and we just did, right? It was just like, fuck it, give me the booze, give me whatever. I'm out. I'm checked out. I've checked out, and my checking out was leaving my relationship, you know, and that sort of thing. And so the point I'm asking, what was that point that you went, okay, this has got to stop. This has got to change.
Well, I'll explain it this way. Before my children passed, I was a pastor. Okay, I was a pastor for about 8.5 years. So I lived a very straight lifestyle and taught a very straight lifestyle. Once the accident happened, that was where I fell off the rails. Okay, fell off the rails and started basically doing everything I'd ever preached against.
Was that immediate then? When you went off the rails? Was it like a week after, 2 weeks after, a month after?
No, I would say after, because I didn't get into the drinking and stuff until after my spouse and I had split.
Right.
And
that was another form of grief, right? Ultimately.
My spouse and me leaving?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was all kinds of stuff that I was dealing with, because it wasn't just.
It added,
you know,
to it, didn't it?
Sure. There was the loss of my spouse. There was the me now living a lifestyle that was completely different than anything I'd been, you know, preaching, you know, for years before. So I was struggling with that as well, and then struggling with the loss of my boys. I mean, I was being hit from all over the place, and then I was choosing to hang out with people who didn't have my best interest in mind. They saw a person that they could take advantage of to get where they were at. And that was then pushing me away from my family, right? Because my family's trying to draw me in, right? And yeah, man, I mean, I was just getting hit everywhere. And so you ask, what was the final thing? What was it, right? My parents finally came to me and they said, Lenny, you know what? You need to leave. And it broke my heart. But they were absolutely right.
Oh, so you were living with your parents?
No, I wasn't.
Sorry.
No. What they meant was I needed to leave the state.
Okay.
The state that I lived in. And I look back on it, they're absolutely correct. I did need to. I was hanging out with the wrong people, setting up horrible relationships that were getting me in all kinds of horrible trouble. And so we packed me up in a car one day, took me to a different state. My parents basically dropped me off. Of course, we waited till I found a job.
They didn't let you run into the woodlands like a lost puppy.
No.
Go now.
No, they didn't.
Just
no,
be
they
free.
didn't.
Be free.
And I know that.
Yeah.
I know it sounds horrible, right?
No, but
that was exactly what I needed.
It's
you
tough.
know?
But isn't it amazing what
Sure.
before about, you know, you were giving the sort of the big hands for the parents, and then what you just say now, that is just in a way they saved your life again, didn't they? You know,
I would agree with that. Absolutely.
They brought you in, you had that moment, you got yourself in that situation, and it must have been, for any parent to see that, must have been absolutely, you know, heartbreaking for them, because it's that helpless as well, isn't it? There's what can they do until obviously it got to the point where they were like, right. And had they maybe done that before, might not have worked. It might not have been the right time for you in there, because, and it's just everything was aligned at the right time in the worst way for them to do it. And then I suppose it was just that moment in there when you went, yeah. And amazing that you did. Yeah. Amazing that you did, because it very easily
it could have gone the other way.
Could have gone the other way, couldn't it?
If you didn't have supportive parents, could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
And
very easily.
It all goes on to the, you know, thing that I always speak about to my dad quite a lot is, you know, I said, I bet you didn't think at 48, you're still helping me out and looking after me. It's true. He's 78 now, and he's still helping me out in different ways. Just give me guidance and stuff like that. And the parents are always right. Go on, what are you going to say?
No, yeah.
He does. He's not the same.
I might leave it for another podcast just in case he watches this one. It's not. But again, it's look. Everyone has different situations. Everyone deals with things differently in different circumstances, and every parent and every human, we're all different, and we all deal with things differently. So I would never fault either of my parents for.
But they hadn't experienced anything like this either. Our dads haven't experienced the loss of a grandchild before they lost.
Yes, but my wife's dad had lost a child.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And I think her grandparents also during the war. So, but then this also comes back to before, is that we're not the only ones. So my wife, she lost an older brother. So yes, my mother-in-law has lost a child. So she lost a son, and she's now lost a granddaughter. So the answer is that it does happen. Yeah. My mother hadn't. But I'm sure if my grandmother was alive now, she'd probably tell me of loads of people that lost. It's not. I don't quite know what the point I was trying to make, but yes, it's.
No, I think the point is that for everyone in this journey, you said it yourself. You rely on other people, to sort of get you through, and dads, fathers in general tend to be in the UK anyway. They tend to be a bit more old-fashioned, right?
Yeah.
They carry this stereotype, and there was a moment where my dad, turned around to me about 6 months ago, and we were talking in a restaurant, and he goes, "Well, I lost my wife," and I said, "Well, I lost my mother and my daughter," and he had no understanding of that, if that makes sense.
Right.
And I had to just walk out. But that doesn't mean he doesn't mean well. It's just the way his existence is, it's just his headspace. It's his journey. Yeah. It's his grief journey. And we all have different grief journeys. And, we're not getting our dads on the show, by the way, just so you know. No intention whatsoever. We draw the line. It will just turn into a slugfest.
Yeah, it would be absolutely no. I'd say what? No.
But do you talk to your dad? Did you ever speak to your any of your male friends, like confide in them in the way?
That's an excellent question.
Thank you.
Because it's an excellent question, because my spouse at the time, my ex-wife, she and I had all the same friends, right? So when we split up, right?
That's another dynamic, isn't it?
You've seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, haven't you? You've seen Curb Your
Enthusiasm? No.
They choose sides, don't they? Right? Ultimately, yeah.
But I mean, we've talked about it. I started hanging out with people that didn't have my best interest in mind. But look at there, I'm still here.
You got all spooky.
Give me just a second. There we go. We're good.
I'm gonna pay the bill.
No, I mean, I told you that I started hanging out with some really bad people, because all the people that I did hang out with before that were really, really good for me, I stepped away from. Right. It's not that they abandoned me, right? My friends didn't leave me. I left them.
And do you think that was because they couldn't? Do you think that was partly because they couldn't relate to you?
No.
Or you can relate to them?
Because see, that actually opens up a whole nother can of worms.
Sorry.
What you just said, that I can't relate to them. I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
But it's
funny because I think I do sometimes struggle with some of my friends from then.
What I'm talking about though is I see people with their children, right? And I see them not being nice to their children, right? And I can't identify with that person anymore because I don't have my children to be mean to. That makes sense?
It does.
Those people do. And it makes me very, very sad. That's the only way I really know how to explain it.
No,
I have trouble sometimes.
I totally understand. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. I have trouble identifying with people. Not that they have trouble identifying with me. That's them, right?
But,
that's their thing.
The point was
but
that
I have trouble.
at certain points in your children's life, you were probably exactly like them back then.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And
No,
then
absolutely.
you sort of there's this level of, I hate the word, I'm sorry to use it, but envy. Because they've got something you haven't got anymore.
But of course, it's you're envious because you'd rather be in their situation that they had a child that they can be angry with. Don't do that. You can't say that. You can't.
I don't have
they
that.
can, and they can say, "Don't do that," and then later on they can give them a hug and say, "I'm sorry," and or they can, and you can't do that anymore.
Can I ask you another
you will.
Interesting question? Sorry.
Do I have to answer?
You mentioned you're
you can say no to anything.
Shut up. You mentioned you're
okay.
You mentioned we never sit this close usually. You mentioned you're a pastor, and
I was, yeah.
So you're obviously religious to a certain degree. I'm assuming is that what is? So did you lose faith?
You know, that's an excellent question, Serge. I'm glad you asked.
Stop saying that
yes.
because I'm going to get too cocky. All right, stop saying it. I'm going to ask you a really question soon. Don't worry.
So, I have not lost faith. Okay, but I also don't preach like I used to. I don't go to church. I'm not a vocational pastor or anything like that anymore. But I haven't lost faith either. But here's the thing, is that after the accident happened, right, and my boys passed, and everything started to fall apart, right, in my life, I never shook my fist, right? I never shook it at the sky and screamed and yelled at God and blamed him for everything. I never did that. But you know, what I'm saying is I never denied him, right? But I did turn around, and then I denied him by the lifestyle I chose to live afterwards.
You were protesting.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I didn't, and I should have done.
Sorry. I'm on fire today. That's the problem, right? I'm just one step ahead of him the whole way today. Sorry.
I'm just a bit passive today. I suppose being a pastor or being involved in any faith or religion, in a way, you have been preaching that shit happens.
Of course.
So you know that it does, and you know that it would be wrong to blame whoever you believe in. But you can still be angry. And I suppose in a way you can still say in a way, okay, I know you've just given me what I can deal with, but you know what? I'm now going to do what I want for a bit. And I suppose that's
and that's kind of it. You know, that's kind of what happened. Though the words never came from my mouth, they don't have to
come from your mouth, do they? They can just
they don't.
You just do what you do, and if that is there, they can see what you're doing, and they're going, all right, yeah, I can see what he's doing. I'm just going to let him do it. Maybe. Sorry, can I ask a question?
No,
sure.
No, I'm not religious at all, and we've brushed on it a few times. But I have religion in my life. I'm Jewish. I grew up Jewish. I grew up in a Jewish home. And I found, for me, going through the grieving process, certainly immediately after, when you've got the funeral and the shiver, the wake, so to speak, the period of mourning, and like every religion, you know, you've got your way of doing things, and that's how. As much as I wasn't a believer in it, for me it was a rock. It was something to hold on to in this whole shitstorm, and without it, I don't know. But for you, what was that process like? And although that you've just, what we were just talking about, you know, you were a preacher, that was what you were doing, but you've been thrown this massive curveball, and you're supposed to now embrace the part that maybe you have dealt other people in the past that helps them, but you're now fighting your own emotions against this. And so that process for you, the immediate after, was that a kind of a numb moment, or was it, in hindsight, you're pleased that it was there? I don't know if my question made sense.
It's a good question.
No, it's a good question, but it I think that made me.
It's a good question.
Okay, you're all giving him props. Good job, great question. Good job, good job.
Just for the record, all of his, you said excellent. I got a good.
Oh, okay. But I'll remember that.
Nice
I'll
work,
remember that.
Nice work.
But so yeah, it's
sure. So definitely, you don't know how you're going to respond until it happens. Unfortunately, right? Like I'd said, you know, beforehand, I could say this, I could say that, you know, da 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 da, and I could comfort you, and everything would be great. But ultimately, what it is I'm comforting myself by saying things, not necessarily comforting you. That's a whole other box we can open up another time and talk about. But I know that for myself, I felt desperately weak, right? Because I knew all these things that I would say to other people, right? I knew how I would try to convey a message and how I would try to comfort people and stuff. Had I witnessed something like this, I knew what I would say to them, but I found no comfort in that. So that made me feel extremely weak. Is that what you're asking?
something like that. Yeah.
Because Lee, that's my answer. So whatever it was,
that's why I reacted the way that I did. That's
my answer. Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, it's well.
That's my no, Lee. That's my excellent answer to your good question.
Yeah, I think it was a good answer to an excellent question, but it's fine.
Oh, okay.
No, but it's still it's for me. It wasn't that it certainly didn't give me comfort. I suppose sometimes it's actually more for other people. It's not for me, it's for other people. But it was just it's in a way not interesting, but I just wanted to see what it was like for you, because especially you came from that kind of background. So in the past, if you've been there giving comfort to people in those situations or similar situations, and suddenly you find you're now on the other side of that table, and people are now giving that to you, and it must in there it must be kind of very strange when you're going through that, because it's almost like an out of body experience, that all this time that if you've done it before, and now the tables are turned, and now you're on the receiving end, and
now you're on the flip side,
and it's another emotion that you've got to deal with on top of all the other emotions that you're dealing with.
Did you expect more from people?
I think that's where my struggle was coming too, because the more I stepped further away, right, I knew that I was stepping away, and that just beat me up on the inside. I knew that what I was doing was not filling the void in my heart, right, of losing my boys. And every step was a further step away from everything I'd preached in the past, right? So it was just a huge, ugly snowball that I couldn't get out of until, like we talked earlier, my parents finally said, you know what, Lenny, this is it. We're done. You need to go.
And
so
they
took me away.
going from that point, you're in this foreign place to a certain degree. What did you do next? What was the?
I was wondering, actually, yeah. Because your parents have literally put you in a car, taken you off,
giving you
released you with your little stick and the four-cornered bandana with a couple of.
It wasn't exactly like that, but
so what did you do?
So what we did was I'd moved in with my parents, and they said, let's find you a job out of the state, right? So I went, jumped online looking for jobs. I found this one company. It wasn't out of state, but it was way out on the border. So it was a long ways away, right? Hours away. And so I thought that was pretty safe. And I was talking to their recruiter, right? And their recruiter was like, yeah, this would be great. You're hired. But then it turned out that I couldn't find a place to live out there. Because what you have to understand too is that I have epilepsy, right? I wasn't driving. After the accident, I wasn't a big fan of driving. I have epilepsy, so my huge stress, I'll end up having a seizure, stuff like that, and I knew I was going to be going out by myself. Very stressful environment. I needed to find a job and a place to live that were very close together, right? I couldn't find one. So I had to call this lady and say, hey, I'm sorry, but I just can't. I can't take the job. I can't find a place to live. And it was horrible. It was bad. But then a couple weeks later, this same lady calls me back and says, we're opening a call center in Boise, Idaho, right? Would you be willing to come there? Boise, Idaho is 8 hours from where I was living before. So again, I needed out, right? So I said, sure, I'll take it. I didn't know what the job was or anything. I just knew that it was in a call center, right? I'd be answering the phone and helping people. That's all I knew.
Can I just ask a very quick question? Did they know your situation, what had happened, or what you've come from, or did they know anything? Or
yeah, no, they knew, yeah, because I was very open when I spoke with the recruiter. Yeah. So the recruiter offered me, the position out there because I said, yeah, I'd love to take it. And that was where my parents put all my belongings in the back of a truck, took me out to Idaho, put me into my apartment that we'd found there. And then they said, all right, we'll talk to you in a couple months, we'll have you come out and and we would talk on the phone, all that kind of stuff. And they left. And so then it was just me, in this place I didn't know. I didn't have a car. I had a bicycle. But then this recruiter, right, calls me and says, hey, Lenny, we have this, at the call center, you've already been hired. We have another position opening up that I think you'd be good for. It's a trainer position. And with my background of being a pastor and working in call centers and stuff in the past, I fit kind of into this leading, teaching role. So I went down, applied for that. I got that. Ultimately, long story short, this recruiter lady had a couple of boys, same age as mine. And she and I started dating. And then we got married. And that's who I'm married to now. And she has 3 boys. They're all very, very close to the same age as the boys that I lost, Dawson and Devin. And it's been amazing watching them go through all the things that I was so angry that I wouldn't have. You know what I mean? With my boys, that was part of my struggle. That there were so many things that parents were going to have that I wasn't going to have.
I'm so happy that I've been witness to hear that, because obviously I had no, we've only known each other,
sure,
a time, and I've only known so far the absolute down, awful, shit, destitute, situation, and obviously I'm aware, okay, he's here and he's doing these podcasts and clearly it's helping, but then to hear that. And it's funny, as soon as you said, and she had 2 boys, I'm thinking, no, really? And it's just...
What age were the boys? Were they the same age?
Yeah, same age. Yeah. So, pretty crazy, huh? Pretty crazy.
Well, it's not really.
No.
You accused me of not being spiritual, but no, that's where I am. You never know. You know what's around the corner. You just do not. You just don't.
You're in control to a certain degree. You're in control of your own destiny, but in this situation, your parents forced the issue, and
They
Yeah,
forced my destiny.
but it was still up to Lenny to go with
Yeah,
it.
you still got to do.
You very easily could have said no.
You
I'm
still
not going
got to
go.
recognize
Yeah.
that you need therapy, you need help, or whatever, and it's up to you to make that decision. But the uncanny events are just uncanny, right? It's just, it's you don't. It was like everything is meant to be, right? I do believe that, and it goes on to nice little segue into the fact that you then, I'm assuming, how soon after did you decide to start preaching through social media?
Through social media. I don't. On TikTok, I don't preach.
But
right?
what I mean. You talk.
I don't preach.
Yeah, it's not preaching.
I do talk positivity, on TikTok. I do answer questions about child loss and mourning and guilt and grieving and all that stuff that just comes together. And I've had many people ask me questions about, God and stuff like that. And I've always avoided it. I've always avoided that question.
I noticed that about your TikToks. Yeah.
What, that I've never talked about it? Yeah.
You talk about the emotion and the feeling, but you don't talk about the spirituality of it all.
No, I don't. I did one time. I did once. And the question was if I believed in God. And I struggled with whether or not I should actually answer it, right? But I finally did. And the way that I answered it was this. I said in the very beginning that, yada, yada. I've been asked this lots of times, and I don't know if this is a cop-out, but this is my answer. I have a message that I'm trying to get across about child loss, about grief, guilt, that whole ball of wax that comes in it. So I have a message, and it reaches these people. If I give this message and then I say, God, 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 right? I just start praising the Lord. Then all these people over here are now cut off from the message I'm trying to present, right? Now, if we have that same message, and then I stand up and I say, and I did it all on my own, and I did it without God, and I did it, da da da. Now, all of these people are gone. They're now not going to benefit, right? And so that was how I responded to it. I didn't say one way or another. I just said that I leave it out, and this is why. If I believe, these people don't want. These people are like, oh well, Lenny uses God as a crutch. That's why he's made it. Da 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 da. Right? If I think you guys understand. You understand what I'm trying to say.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
You're sitting on the. You don't want to. You enter that sort of realm. You open a can of worms, right? And
exactly.
And you start alienating people, and it's not something not something you want to do.
And too many people have lost faith, and that's the whole point. And on this journey, and listening to you and understanding your journey. I mean, we've really only just touched the sort of. We haven't even touched the
can I ask one more question, if that's okay?
Better be an excellent one.
Yeah, it's got to be an excellent question. All right.
I'm screwed, aren't I? No, but so obviously you've got a new partner with new children.
Sure.
You've got a new partner with
one on the way.
So obviously your new partner has got to deal with your baggage, your mental baggage, and there's a lot. It's heavy baggage. It's heavy baggage, and your white girl, I always forget, partner has
life partner,
yeah.
She'll hate me saying that.
Has also got to deal with your baggage, and it was like when exactly when Serge came over for the first time with his partner, and we were discussing about starting this, and there's Serge, there's me, and there's my wife that have lost a child. And then there's the one person there, like,
oh sure,
they haven't.
Yeah, when she left that day, she was like, I just didn't know what to say.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously,
I couldn't relate.
there's probably no exact question, but I mean, your wife clearly sounds like the most amazing person, because she clearly saw something in you anyway.
Well, look at him; he's beautiful.
Oh, he's stunning. This is a
Pretty
brand.
much.
Yeah, no, but it's obviously she saw something in you regardless, and then it grew into where it is now. And there's probably no question, but it's a big thing, because for any partner, they are taking someone on that's been through
taking on all of it.
without knowing
not
obviously what she's been through. She
they're
might have
taking
also
on
been
all
through, I don't know, but
I mean,
yeah. So there's no real question. It was how has she sort of
so it wasn't
managed? No, I think it was a very perfectly valid point, and
it was a point. It wasn't a question. Just making the point.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's my point. I'm making now that point.
Yeah, but it must have been quite for her. For any partner that goes through that, it's got to be a big thing, and it's they have to take a lot. And I think
it's the same when I was on the dating scene. You know, as soon as you sort of, you know, you what? Tell me about your family.
Oh yeah,
and then
it's a winner, isn't
then
it?
you're like, oh, I lost one, and that's like, yeah, you're not getting it tonight.
Did you
Can you guys?
honestly, did you find though there must have been quite a difference in a lot of different people? I don't know how many people you.
I made sure to mention it very, very early in the process. So even when I didn't know what text dating was, you know, when I was, you know, it didn't exist. I was married that long, right? And all of a sudden I'm like, you know, on all these apps and you know,
I don't remember if we had mobile phones when we
spend most of my day on the phone chatting to people and you know, think, you know what, I'm just going to filter it out. You know, when you built up, I mean, how quickly, we're just going to we're going to wrap up soon, but I mean, in terms of how quickly, I want to know a bit more about the social media and what drove you to do the social media, and ultimately, well, we know what drove you to do it, but ultimately what made you feel that, well, how quickly did it all happen? The traction, the sort of the growth in the amount of people started to follow you and respond to you. You know, how did that all come about? I mean, over what period?
So I've been doing TikTok since March of 2020. So just over 3 years. And what happened was, well, the pandemic, you know, the global pandemic, the coronavirus. The company that I work for decided, hey, we want everybody to work from home. We don't want to do anything. We want anything to do with this. Come, get your computer. You're going to work from home. So I went and did that, brought all my stuff home, and I got bored so fast. I got bored. Even though I had my job to do, you know, I still got bored. I'm one of those people that my fingers have to be moving. I have to be thinking all the time. So I downloaded TikTok and I watched it all the time. And eventually I wanted to start making my own videos. That's just kind of how it goes.
and you found a niche.
And so when I started, I was just doing stupid stuff, you know, like everybody else, and lip syncs and whatever, stupid stuff. And one day I was really, really struggling. You know, I hadn't talked about my boys on social media at all, right? Hadn't talked about my struggles or anything, none of it. And one day I was just really struggling, and I made a video talking about my boys. And it did, I mean, it went viral. It did. A lot of people saw it. And then people just started coming forward through that one video about how they'd lost their children and they'd gone through all the same things I had. And this had also happened to them. And they felt alone, you know, and they felt like they couldn't talk to anybody. And I just started answering some of these questions and comments that people were leaving for me. And of course, my account started to grow, you know, from that point. I was interacting with people who had questions and wanted to know, you know, what to do. They were lost, just like me, right? Just like me, just like you guys. You can't possibly say you got your shit together. I don't have my shit together.
No, I definitely don't.
You know,
don't.
I don't. But really, with
Not even wearing any
TikTok,
trousers.
all it is that I interact with people who've gone through the same thing, and they realize that they're not alone. And the thing is, just like me, I thought I was. And I made that TikTok because I was hurting. I was trying to express my feelings. And then it was like it opened up a whole new world to me of all these people who've lost children. And now I have, almost 300.
You rounded it up.
I rounded up, I rounded up.
You could round it down 10,000 and it's still a
But I mean, I suppose you are an influencer in grief, right?
I guess.
Lucky you.
Yeah. But the big thing about grief that I want people to understand, though, is that grief doesn't have to be a sad thing.
No.
Grief can also be a happy thing. Oh man, I remember when we used to go to that restaurant together. We used to have so many good times together at that restaurant, and it makes you smile. That can still be grief. Be a happy grief.
Well, it is part of the journey.
Good grief.
Yeah,
It's good grief.
It's funny, after 17 odd years, it's funny, that's one of the things I kind of struggle with still. I think again it starts opening up all these other topics, but at 4.5, the things that we did were limited, so to speak, as opposed to 6 years or 7 years or 9 years or 10 years or 15 years, or there were still things that we did that I do remember. In fact, saying that, there are times I do remember things we did that were lovely. But yeah, that's definitely something I struggle with, and in fact sometimes I think I should stop doing that, and I should start trying to think of some of the nicer things, because all it's doing is just eating me inside, and it's like this
Resentment.
Yeah. But then I mean, it's not flogging myself with vine leaves, but that's kind of what it. But in seriousness,
shame.
Yes, no, but in seriousness,
yeah,
it is that you feel that why should I be happy?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to feel sad. I mean, it's not all the time, but maybe that's just my way of some things. It's
no,
you are right. There are good times that you should remember, and it does give you these opportunities to remember those good times. And there's nothing wrong in remembering the good and happy times, because it's important. It's important.
Yeah, and I think what as well with this, the social media stuff, it is a form of coping mechanism, isn't it, for you? And
absolutely.
You mentioned
Even going to a therapist.
You mentioned to me off camera that you said you posted every day for three years or something like that. Multiple times. I mean, I was thrilled to get one post from him the other day. I mean, it took me 6 months.
Hold on. That was my first one. But again, you see, I've always actually been over the last. One of the battles I've got is over the last few months. I hate TikTok. Not that I hate it, but I hate.
You're looking at it from the wrong perspective. That's the problem.
No, but also I'm looking at it because I've still got 4 children.
They're all dancing around.
No. But seriously, yeah. I've got 4 children, and they and everyone else spends all their effing time looking at a screen. And if something's good for the first 4 seconds, they'll stay watching. If it's not, right, move on. And so I'm not against it, but yes. So okay, yes, I'm an actor. Yes, okay, I'm an actor, and I shouldn't.
You mentioned that twice now.
Okay, that's probably because you interrupted me twice.
Something about wanting to always be in commercials and stuff too. I remember that.
Don't give him any plug, please. I've already spends his podcast plugging himself.
That's if I can get in between your talking
and my excellent questions.
But no, it's so I have started now, and I will now do more. I did my one, I did my first one, and now I will.
But I get what Lenny's saying. It becomes this sort of bug, for me. And it, like today, I posted one, but I can't. I prepared it, but I can't post it for various reasons because the controversy of it. But I know that I will post it over the next few days.
Right.
You know, and it's like, for me, you know, it's all about how you're feeling on that day, and you want to express how you feel. And it may connect with one person, it may connect with 50 people, but as long as you get that one person that you can connect with to a certain degree.
See, I was going to do one last night when I was out walking the dog.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
I was feeling anxious inside over something.
Just let it out. Just let it out.
Yeah, but that's my current battle.
And that's what you do so eloquently. Not eloquently, Lenny. So I did there. And you know, I mean, we've only really brushed the surface today, and we are way over time, and it's frustrating because I've got so many more excellent questions to ask you. But we're going to have to do another podcast.
They might be good.
Before we leave, can I have on camera that you will come back?
Is Lee gonna be here? Because
No.
Of course I will. I'd be more than happy to. I'd be more than happy to.
So we'll call this part one of Lenny, the
third show,
the Lenny Hunt show. If people want to,
third show with special guest Lee.
If people, you know, when like you get at the cinema, you go,
Sure.
You know, featuring in the bottom, like Lee. So what I want to say is, anyone who wants to find Lenny online on TikTok,
Sure.
The Lenny Hunt, is that right?
That is me. Yep, that is right.
And I would encourage everyone to have a listen, because it really does share a real the real emotion and feeling that people are going through on the grieving journey, and just the answers to the questions that get put to him are just so beautifully constructed. And I'm learning every day from you, and that's part of why we're doing this, to sort of, you know, help each other and guide each other on the journey and on the grief journey. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for being with us today. And
am I allowed to thank him?
No.
Okay. No, thanks, Lenny. I must say, you know, you said before, we've only known each other for a very short space of time, and I've watched your TikToks, and obviously we've now had a fantastic conversation, and I have learned, and I'm proud that I've learned these things about you and your life since, and the way you opened up. I know a lot of us do open up, but a lot of us don't open up.
Right.
But what you have said, and the way you opened up, and the way you answered the questions were just, I doffed my hat. It was just, I know it's very hard. However many times you've done it, however many times you've said it, it's never going to be easy. So thank you for what you said and how you said it, because you're an amazing guy, and yeah.
And finally, the one thing I took from this is I've already got a title for this podcast today. So it's called Men Do Talk About Shit Happening. And I think it's perfectly adequate. So
I'm not sure about that. I don't know. We'll see.
Thank you so much, Lenny. And
no problem. Thanks a lot, guys.
Have a great day.
Well, yeah.
Say in America.
You as well. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Don't go. All right.
No, thanks very much, Lenny. Absolutely amazing. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think
Lenny,
of course.
Just
you got me and him with that story about your partner and your wife, and you know.
No.
I like it when people keep things back, and you know, I met someone today and talking about his journey, and I said, don't tell me too much. I want you to keep stuff back, because it's really emotive for what we're doing. And yeah,
keep talking. I am listening. I'm just getting another cup of coffee, but I can still hear you. Okay.
No, and that's it, really. I mean, you know, I just feel that. Sorry, one sec. What are you going on about? Is this a problem when you check your phone? It's like shit happens, literally.
I'm still here, guys.
Got a coffee machine in his bedroom. Love it.
No, I
That's
said
what I
to go to the
need.
living room to grab it.
So yeah, I just think that we got so much more content for future posts, future podcasts. And we'll do with this. I mean, we didn't mention an episode number, did we, at the start? I don't think we did.
I know. No, you said first person on the show.
Yeah, so
First guest on the show.
first guest. So we could potentially move it forward a few weeks, potentially, couldn't we?
Yeah. It's. I need to play around a little bit with the sound, I think, but it's just it's fun. No, so basically the studio that we're in, because I'm involved in a streaming business and podcast studio, and we've had a bit of a tumultuous few months, but we've kind of, I think, got over it as of yesterday. We had a long conversation, and my mental health was not in a great place because one of us has his way, and it was not working well with me, and I was just going like this and this and this and this and this, and we were pretty much going to walk away, and we had a long conversation.
That's because Serge is a dick, man.
Sorry?
That's what it is. It's because Serge is a dick.
Yeah, I know. I know. I suddenly because when Serge said, "Oh, it's not me," I suddenly realised, you know what? He probably thinks I'm talking about Serge. And he's also thinking, why has he put it out here so Serge sees it? What an idiot! But no, it's with this. But we had a long conversation yesterday. Yes, she's fine. And you know, we've dealt with it, and I think we're in a good place now where we've got to carry on, because make a very long story short, all the equipment we've invested in, all the effort, everything we've done for 2 years, we're out now at that point where we've gone there. We've done jobs, we've had great jobs, we've had shit jobs, we've spent a lot of money on equipment. We're now at that point where everything now is profit, and let's learn from all of this. And as well, if we sold everything, we'd make nothing. We'd lose all our money. So and it's just not worth it. So we've said, you know what, we've got too much of a good thing. We need to. And we put a lot of things out there with each other. And so we came today to my home, which is good that we could use my home. I mean, I didn't, you know, and my equipment, I didn't see your equipment and everything being used. So that's fine. So next week we are back at the studio.
That isn't actually true, because he's actually using my Google Meets account, but I'm not going to. Yeah. We're just going to leave that.
Yeah.
You know, we're
going to leave
the podcast for a while.
We're going to leave
it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it was amazing, and I really do. Very grateful for everything that you've said, because it's never easy. Yeah. It's never easy, and it's always hard and brave to just say these things, especially what you was. I mean, you know, to talk about what you went through. I'm still, yeah, in awe that you. Well, I suppose you have no choice. You've got to say, haven't you? I know it's a bizarre thing. It's like, you know, how do you cope? Well, you just do, because if you don't, then then the worst happens. So you actually don't have. Well, you've got a choice. It's either cope or not cope. Yeah,
absolutely. All right. Yes, thank you so much. And by the way, thank you again for yesterday as well. It's been really insightful. I just need to start getting some posts done. Yeah. Yeah, more posts, more followers, and hopefully we can cross promote this in some way. We can send you some clips and that sort of thing.
Of course.
All right. Okay.
I'll
be in touch, buddy, next week.
All right. We'll talk
Lovely
soon.
weekend.
Thanks.
Yeah?
Have a great weekend.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
See you guys.
Bye. Bye.